Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, and thank you for joining us once again, TheModenstersOfGaming. I'm KaijuK with my continued coverage of my top 10 Ice-Type Fakemon. Now, it's been a few days, a few things have happened, and I had a quick bout with depression I don't really need to bring up. Needless to say, I'm back and we're continuing on. Now, Ice-Types are one of the cooler types, wink wink, just kidding. The thing about Ice-Types is they were originally created as kind of the counter to Dragon types, and I guess it makes sense. Dragons would be viewed as more warm-blooded creatures, cold-blooded creatures, I guess would be the way. So it'd be more doubt that ice would be able to hurt them more than anything. However, ice types also have the fatal flaw of having a lot of very common weaknesses, and they're strong against flying types and grass types too. Don't get me wrong, but I think they've really gotten a bad rap, and it's mainly because there's very few types that you can combine with them that will grant them any kind of actual protection. Like, you can't get them down to having like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 weaknesses without it being compromised by a 4x weakness. That's not to say that ice types are anything to shed a tear about. Ice types are actually quite powerful, especially with their myriad of abilities, and the fact that freeze is one of the most devastating abilities in the game, until they nerfed it recently, where it used to be to the point where if you were frozen, you were frozen for quite a few turns. Nowadays, you seem to thaw out after the first or second turn. That being said, let's start with our honorable mention, and then we will move from there. So, for our honorable mention for our Ice-type Pokemon, it is none other than Mega Frosslass. Yes, Mega Frosslass, the Snowland Pokemon. Now, Mega Frosslass is an Ice Ghost type, and she keeps that type when she does her Mega Evolution. However, her abilities are usually Snow Coat and Cursed Body, but she gains Fur Coat when she Mega Evolves, which is actually really cool. The reason for that is, well, a lot of her weaknesses would be strongly based on physical attacks, and Fur Coat cuts down physical damage by half. Her standard abilities aren't too bad. I mean, she's got pretty good scores and everything, including her speed, but her Mega Evolution just boosts it that much there. Her HP and attack stay the same. She gains 15 points to her defense. She gains a whopping 40 to her special attack, which makes her far more threatening. Her special defense goes up 35, and her speed goes up 20 to make her a straight-up 580. Now, when I brought up those weaknesses before, here's what I'm talking about. Okay, she's got weaknesses to rock types, ghost types, steel types, fire types, and dark types. And unfortunately, she can't cover enough of those to really take the cake. Luckily, thanks to her being a ghost type, though, and I can say her because all Frostlasses are female, she's immune to normal and fighting types being the strongest one that can kick their butt. Now, the Mega Frosslass has access to the same types of moves as she would normally get, so there's not really much going through them. Like, you know, here's some pictures of her real quick, but no pictures of her Mega version, unfortunately. Now, with Mega Frosslass, I would definitely give her, obviously, I would give her Frostlassite so she could Mega Evolve. And then I would teach her Shadow Ball and Frost Breath for stab coverage. A lot of people would say use Ice Beam or something, but I like the fact that always a critical hit from Frost Breath is really devastating. I'd give her Draining Kiss for a little HP healing, a little bit of stab bonuses against certain targets. And I would also teach her Double Team. Double Team's one of my favorite stat boosting moves, just because, unlike moves like Flash or Mud Slap, even if a Pokemon switches in, your evasion stays the same. With that being said, let's move on to our number 10 on the list, and this is actually a Delta Pokemon. This would be Delta Scizor. And of course, Mega Delta Scizor, as you can see right there. Now, Delta Scizor is the pincer Pokemon, but it has the interesting fact that it's an ice fighting type. It has access to Scrappy and Ice Cleats. What Ice Cleats is it's basically Swift Swim for when it's hail, which means it doubles the speed. It also has access to Super Luck, and also when it Mega Evolves, it gains Adaptability, which gives you, instead of 1.5 stab bonus for using same type moves, it gives you 2 times the effect. Now, it says right here in its Delta catalog that or Pokedex entry catalog, jeez, Its exoskeleton is coated with a thick layer of ice. The layers of ice reform once per year, so basically like shedding. It's a pretty cool Pokemon that has a straight 500 base stat, including very large stats towards HP, or attack, defense, and special defense. When it Mega Evolves, though, as you can see, it gets 20 points towards its attack, it gains an additional 40 points towards defense, 10 towards its special attack, 20 towards its special defense, and 10 towards its speed. The only thing I would say here is I would rather them have given plus 20 to speed instead of plus 10 to special attack, because while Scizor does have access to some special attack moves, that with a base attack of 150 as Mega Delta Scizor, you're not going to be using special attacks, and if you are, well, I guess the best to you. Weakness-wise, though, you're talking 6 weaknesses here. Fighting, Fairy, Flying, Steel, Fire, and Psychic. Most of which are very common moves to be careful of. Delta Scizor's move pool also has access to some pretty cool moves. It can learn Cross Chop, Close Combat, Icicle Crash, Low Sweep, Ice Ball. So it can hit pretty hard. And once again, due to the fact that it's a Delta type, it can't breed. There's a little Delta Skeether. I guess they call him Scyther. I just think it looks like it should be Skeether. And Scizor, I'm pretty sure it's Scizor, but I'm pretty sure I just pronounce the way I see it. And I actually like how the sprites look, especially the difference. Like, the regular form, it's obviously blue, but the other form looks like it's actually made of steel or something. And then, of course, there's the Mega Evolutions. Trivia says, prior to Generation 7, no other Pokemon had the same type combinations as Delta Scizor, which is, of course, ice fighting. Delta Scizor shares its species name with Kingler and Scizor. They are all known to have pincer Pokemon. Despite having different base stats, Delta Scizor and its pre-evolution both have a base stat total of 500. In turn, Delta Scizor and its non-Delta counterpart are the only Pokemon to not have their base stat total changed upon evolution, and Mega Delta Scizor has the highest base defense of all fighting-type Pokemon. And I'm seriously, I mean, that's a pretty high defense. 140 defense? Woo, move over, Shuckle. I'm just kidding, Shuckle's way stronger. So, how I would play Delta Scizor is I would grant him the Scrappy ability when he's for pre-evolution, just in case I had to run into a ghost type or two. And then when he Mega Evolves, adaptability comes into play. I would teach him Drain Punch and Icicle Crash for stab bonuses and coverage. Night Slash because a critical hit with that kind of power is great. And Agility to boost his kind of low speed so he becomes more of a one-hit threat. You don't need to teach him Bullet Punch if he can literally outrun all the Pokemon. And of course, you have to give him Delta Scizorite to give him the evolution. Basically, the cool thing about this is, besides the design looking like it's got fangs coming out of its actual jaw-like mouths, if they just took a cool Pokemon and made it cooler. Yeah, I'm full of bad puns today. Get ready for it. It's going to be a nice time. Oh, I went there again. So next up is probably the most unusual Pokemon on the list. And the reason for that is, you know what? I'm going to go turn my phone down. Give me a second. I keep it on so I can hear when I'm editing videos, so I can hear when they pop up, just to make sure they do, because I've had some troubles with the past of. Oh, jeez, that's Juggernaut right there. I've had problems with YouTube not popping up the video or saying it's popped up. I don't know why. So from Delta Scizor, we go to the weird one. This is Alpico from Pokemon Uranium. Now, Alpico is a alpine Pokemon, and it actually is skiing on its tails. Those are its tails that are skis. Its Pokedex entry reads, its two tails are coated with a waxy substance that allows it to glide over snow and ice. They are often seen hurtling down mountainsides at high speeds. Now, this Pokemon is an Ice Fairy type that has access to the moves Competitive and Technician. Now, I know you might have heard of Competitive before, because it sounds a lot like Rivalry, but let me tell you, it's something completely different. What Competitive does is, when a stat of a Pokemon with this ability is lowered by an opponent, its special attack is increased 2 stages. So anytime an opponent lowers something like special defense from a Shadow Ball or something, its special attack boosts. Now, this Pokemon is pretty low on the list for a particular reason. It actually doesn't have a lot of coverage moves to help it from its multiple weaknesses. But let's look at its stats real quick. As you can see, it's got very high speed and very high special attack and mid to low everything else, especially its attack. I really wish it had some better defensive stats, but he's meant to be a high-speed special attacker. Now, he's got 4 weaknesses. Those are Poison, Rock, Fire, and a 2x weakness to Steel. That hurts because I've run into a lot of Steel Pokemon, and some of the strongest Pokemon in Pokemon Uranium are Steel types. By its move pool, you'll notice that there's a lot of physical moves in here. It can learn like Double Kick and Reversal. It can learn Fake Out. It can learn Quick Attack. But as far as special attacks go, it's basically forcing you to go with the standard moves. You know, Moonblast, Blizzard, Dazzling Gleam, Ice Beam. But as you can see, it doesn't really have much else. I mean, there's no sudden Grass-type move thrown in there or some Steel-type move thrown in there. In fact, via prior evolution, you could possibly learn it Cotton Guard. But it could also learn Play Rough, which is a physical move. And most of the moves taught by the Move Tutor are all physical as well. You know, Knock Off and stuff like that. Although, technically, I guess you could teach him Knock Off just to get rid of the opponent's held item. And via breeding, he doesn't do much better. He does gain access to Frost Breath and Draining Kiss and Ice Shard. This is his original form, which is Poofluff? Poofluff, I guess is how it's supposed to be. And if his speed is greater than his attack, he'll evolve into Alpico. Now, his sprites are pretty cool looking. As you can see right here, they have the curled tail, which actually curls underneath their feet. And the little claw coming out of the side of their hand is basically for their ski poles. But if you got them for around Christmas time, you can get the Christmas sprite, which also looks really cool. It looks like it's got one big long beaver tail, and like it's on a sled or something. Under trivia, it states that Alpico is based on a skier. It also shares some characteristics with rabbits. And its name comes from Alp, a mountain range in Europe, or Alpine, referring to high mountains, and Pico, the Spanish word for peak. Which is pretty cool. All in all, like I said, he's low on the list. I mean, you can get him, and he's a pretty good Pokemon. I'm not going to say he isn't. But how I would play this guy is I would give him competitive, just in case somebody lowers his stats so he can boost them. I also teach him Yawn, just to get my opponent to fall asleep. The reason for that is because his coverage isn't very high, and with a weaknesses to things like Steel, you don't want that opponent to hit you with something like Metal Claw to really ruin your day. I would teach him Ice Beam and Draining Kiss for stat bonuses, and then Hyper Beam. Now he has a really high special attack, and Hyper Beam's great, especially if your Yawn puts the opponent to sleep, so you get that one-turn recharge. It's a pretty good combo to use Yawn, and then on the following turn use Hyper Beam. That way you can smash into the opponent, and then the turn that they're actually asleep, you can just rest that turn. So from here, we're going to go to the next Pokemon on the list. This is Sealberg, the Seal Pokemon, and first of all, he's an elephant seal. I don't know what they're trying to pull here, but he looks like a combination of all kinds of things. He's got like a dolphin's dorsal fin, as you can see here. Oh, you can't see the mouse, but just pretend I'm pointing at it. He's got an elephant seal's nose. He's got walrus tusks. He's got a narwhal's horn. This is the platypus of the Pokemon world right here. Don't get me wrong, though. He's pretty strong. He's an ice water type. He has access to hydration, mold breaker, and immunity. Now, I really like the ability immunity because a lot of competitive fighting scenes, you see people using Toxic a lot, and Sealbird can just become straight up immune to that, which means Toxic stall teams are basically useless against him. Unfortunately, he has no Pokedex entry, so we can't bring that up. Pokemon Lunar Light and Solar Dark. Solar Light and Lunar Dark. Statistically, though, this guy's pretty badass. Great health, great attack, good defense, good special defense, good special attack. His speed is nothing, but hey, when you have this kind of bulk, you don't have to be the fastest Pokemon in the game. He also has access to... his weaknesses are to fighting, rock, grass, and electric. So he's got quite a few weaknesses that are commonplace. Once again, the major flaw of ice types is having lots of common type weaknesses, especially when they're combined with other groups. But like I said, when you have a base stat of 111 attack, HP, and then 99 special defense and defense, you can take a hit or two, and his move pool helps show that. I mean, he can learn Crunch, he can learn Mega Horn. He can learn Aura Beam and Bubble Beam. He can learn Frost Breath. He can learn Ice Fang, Slack Off, and even Dive naturally. I remember that used to be an HM. Back in the day. You can also gain access to the Move Tutor moves. Aqua Tail, Bounce, of course, is great. Iron Head, Knockoff, Mud Slap, and even Superpower if you really want to throw it off. I mean, he's got the bulk, he can take it. So, his original form is No Seal over here, and then it becomes Ice Sealic over here, and then it becomes Sealberg. Now to the trivia, it says it has it's based off of question mark, and its name is based off of. Well, I'm pretty sure its name is based off of the word seal and the word iceberg, aka Sealberg. As for what it's a combination of, definitely what I mentioned earlier. There's some elephant seal in there, there's some walrus in there, there's some dolphin in there, there's some narwhal in there. I mean, that's a pretty big mixed bag. Now, how to build him? I would definitely build him to be a bulky fighter. I would teach him Aqua Tail and Ice Fang for some stab coverage. And because he's already got a pretty impressive attack bonus, I would also teach him Bounce. With Bounce, you could use it to take out like annoying grass types or the possible chance of paralysis. I would give him a Zoom Lens too. Now, Zoom Lens will boost the accuracy of all moves you have by 20% as long as you go last. And with a base speed of 30, he's pretty much going to go last every time. All in all, he's a very, very big... Oh, sorry, and I would teach him Slack Off for a little bit of bonus healing. He's big, he's bulky, he's going to take a few blows. He's how I like Pokemon. If you ever had to fight me, you could expect my team to be basically comprised of big, bulky, hard to kill, hard to get rid of Pokemon. And that's what you would have to get rid of. Now, the next one up is also from Pokemon Solar Light and Lunar Dark. Now, up in the upper right corner, left corner, it says Renotic, but however, down here it says Mammotic, so I'm just going to call him Mammotic. Now, Mammotic is the Mammoth Pokemon. It's an Ice Ground type. It has the abilities Overcoat, awesome ability, Snow Cloak, and Fur Coat, another awesome ability. When I was designing him, I didn't know whether I wanted to give him, or when I was designing this list, I was fighting over teaching him Overcoat or Fur Coat. They're both really good defensive abilities. Statistically, he's got really good health, attack, okay defense, really good special defense, and low to average speed and special attack. He's not as big as bulky as Sealberg is, but he does gain access to some pretty fun moves too. He's also got 5 weaknesses: Fighting, Steel, Fire, Water, and Grass. So you gotta be kind of careful there. He's definitely designed to be an attacker, and his move list does throw this together. He gains access to moves like Ring Out, Avalanche, Mega Horn, and even Earthquake. He can also learn Slack Off, which is something that's pretty cool to learn. I like Pokemon that have healing moves as well. It becomes really annoying to my opponents. Through his move tutor, he gains access to moves like Endeavor, which I don't ever use, but he can learn Gunk Shot, he can learn Mud Slap, he can learn Zen Headbutt. And here's his little forms down here. This is Memon that evolves into Mammotic. Its name is based on Mammoth. Its appearance is based on Mammoth, and its name is Mammoth and Arctic combined, or Mamartic. Oh, Mammotic. I guess Mamartic should be the name then. Oh, I guess it's Mammoth and Arctic. Okay, I get it now. I see it now. So how I would do is I would give him Fur Coat to give him defense against some of those really strong physical sweepers that could come in. I would teach him Avalanche and Earthquake. Avalanche, because he's pretty much going to go slower than most Pokemon will, so he gets the double bonus plus stab. Earthquake just for the power, and I would teach him Mega Horn just to throw people off. They really wouldn't be expecting it. Although I wish I could learn like Leech Horn or something. That'd be pretty cool too. I would teach him Slack Off, and I would also throw on some leftovers. Once again, I would definitely train this guy to be a big, bulky smacker, but we can't always get what we want. So if you're lucky enough to catch one, I'd hope to catch one that would have like, you know, low training towards speed and high training towards, say, defense or or attack. Next up on this list is probably my favorite of the ice types from this list, appearance-wise alone. It's just such a funky appearance. This is from Pokemon Sage, Chillnobyl, the Meltdown Pokemon. It's the Meltdown Pokemon. Oh man, it's an ice poison type whose special ability is Snow Warning. It says Chillnobyl appears near radioactive sites and absorbs the radiation there. It is often used to clean up nuclear waste and seeks out leaks in nuclear reactors. That makes it a really amazing Pokemon. It's one of those Pokemon that seems to be something that evolved over time to protect the world from radiation. Also, funny remark, I'm surprised this Pokemon never showed up in Pokemon Uranium. hey, Pokemon Sage, I think you need to find a trade out so you can send Chillnobyl into Pokemon Uranium. They need it there, trust me. Stat-wise, he's pretty cool. He's got great HP, really low attack and speed, but good stats other than that. I mean, his defense is pretty good, special attack is great, special defense is awesome. He's definitely a special defense wall, but he's got massive HP and good defense too, so he could be a trade-in for your Chansey. Plus, his poison type makes him immune to toxic. Weakness-wise, though, Chansey's got him beat out, because he's weak to ground, rock, steel, fire, and psychic attacks. Now, he does gain access to a wide list of strange moves. Amongst them, Glaciate, and he learns Acid Rain, which, if you remember from my favorite Ghost-type moves, is a move that damages steel, non-steel / poison types every turn. He also gains access to Frost Breath, Discharge, Recover, Blizzard, and Meltdown. Now, Meltdown is the poison variety of Explosion, so it will work on Ghost types. By Move Tutor, he gains access to a lot more moves. He can gain access to Icy Wind, Heat Wave, Gunk Shot, Ominous Wind. Via breeding, he can even learn Toxic Spikes. His evolutions are Isotope. That's a pun right there. And then he becomes Chillnobyl. It says right here that Chillnobyl was based on a snail and a nuclear power plant. Its shell is shaped like a smokestack. And Chillnobyl is a combination of chill and Chernobyl. And the little picture in the side is a picture of him with his mouth open and closed. So that's a cute little feature. I'm glad they threw that in. Now, Chillnobyl is not the fastest Pokemon, but he's designed to be a hitter. I'm guessing he's supposed to be there to just use his Meltdown ability, kind of like how originally Electrode was used for self-destruct. I don't think that's how I'd play him. He's got good stats, and he can do a lot of damage. So what I would do is I would teach... He can only learn Snow Warning, so I'd use Snow Warning. I would teach him Frost Breath for his first stab, Sludge Bomb for his second stab bonus, and I would teach him Charge Beam to boost his special attack, as well as do some coverage, and then Energy Ball, which can cover quite a few of his weaknesses altogether. Throw a Shell Bell in there, and you have yourself a Pokemon that, even though he has his weaknesses, he's very sturdy. Although you could easily trade out like Sludge Bomb for Meltdown, so if your opponent switched on something that was going to be able to be taken down, like switches in a bulky fairy type to try and be able to whittle you down, you could probably take it down with one shot. This guy was definitely designed to be the poison type's equivalent to everything that's weak to poison types, I'll tell you that. Next up, we're going to bring up the second... I have a lot of elephant Pokemon on these lists. I'm just noticing this now. But I'm bringing up from Pokemon Uranium, Dermafrost. Love the name, by the way. It's the Mountain Tusk Pokemon. Dermafrost is an Ice Rock type, which is by far probably the worst type combination you can get in the game. If you can think of any that are worse, please put it down in the comments below. It says here, it charges forward with the unstoppable force of a glacier, and its punch can shatter solid rock. They were nearly hunted to extinction by early humans. Or, sorry, they were hunted into extinction by early humans. They have access to the moves Solid Rock, Snow Cloak, and Sturdy. I would probably give it Solid Rock just to take away a lot of its weaknesses. Well, just a little bit. Just nerf them a bit. Stat-wise, it has some pretty good stats. With special attack being its lowest, it has really good HP, attack, and defense. With above average special defense and speed. I would definitely EV train it in its special defense to give it more of a boost. Now comes the problem: its weaknesses. So, not counting Nuclear, it has 6 weaknesses. Ground, Rock, Water, and Grass are 2 times weaknesses, while Fighting and Steel are 4 times weaknesses. That hurts, especially since a good portion of Pokemon can learn Fighting and or Steel type moves. Its leveling pool is pretty good. I mean, it has access to moves like Hammer Arm, Ice Punch, Ancient Power, even though it has low special attack. It can even learn Sheer Cold, which is a one-hit KO. He also gains access to Iron Head, Super Power, and Knockoff, 3 really good powerful attacks, and he can even learn Earth One and Drill Punch. His biggest flaw is that he doesn't learn a lot of Rock-type moves. Besides moves like Rock Punch and Rock Blast and Rollout, I mean, he can learn Stone Edge and Ancient Power, but I mean, most of his moves are normal or Ice types. Design-wise, I would definitely be training him up in his HP. I would give him access to 2 strange moves, but just go with me on this one. First of all, I would definitely teach it Bulk Up to give it better attack and some defense. That's why I would EV training it in its special defense and health. I would also gain access to Drain Punch, so it could gain some HP back with its monstrous attack power. Then I would equip it with a Metronome, and this is where I feel that these moves would become really useful. I would teach it Ice Ball and Rollout as its stab bonuses. Now, the reason for that is, both of them are basically the same move. They hit up to 5 times in a row, or until they miss, and every time they hit, they double in power. Now, with how strong Dermafrost already is, combined with Bulk Up, this adds up to a lot of power, and after 2 or 3 rolls, if opponent switches into something that would be strong or resistant, you're still hitting them at, I know, base power 160 or something like that. So, I mean, added stab bonus, and this can just roll over a lot of opponent Pokemon. That's just how I'd play them. Everyone can play their Pokemon the way they want to. That's just how I'd do it my way. Now, next up, please don't add any songs to this. The Narwhal song is dead. But I used to love that song, Narwhal, Narwhal, going through the ocean. I'm sorry. We're going to bring up Nawale. Now, Nawale is a really interesting looking Pokemon for Pokemon Solar Light and Lunar Dark, because that the horn on its nose actually looks kind of more like a sword or a saber. He's an Ice Water type Pokemon, and his name is the Harpoon Pokemon. Now, when I look at that, I don't see Harpoon. I see a hilt going out into a blade with a very, very large edge for probably chopping, more like a kukuri or something, you know, where you swing it down in a chopping motion. But he does gain access to Thick Fat, Mold Breaker, and Ice Body, all of which are very good moves. I'd probably go more towards Mold Breaker, though, just because it seems like it's more of an aggressive Pokemon. Its Pokedex entry reads, Nawale are gentle Pokemon that only use their horns in a pinch. They prefer to feed on seaweed rather than other Pokemon. So, I mean, it's going to be a peaceful Pokemon, so you don't have to worry that much about it. Stat-wise, it's got good HP, good attack, good special attack, but it's above average in everything else. I definitely traded this guy up in his speed, though, to make him a heavy hitter and maybe boost his attack power just a little bit more. Weakness-wise, Fighting Rock, Grass, and Electric. You're not going to get away with those a lot, so, you know, gotta get where you go. Now, he does have access to a lot of different type moves. There's some Bug type, Water type, Ice type, Fighting type, Psychic type, Normal type. You know, access to Mega Horn, access to Swords Dance, access to Sacred Cut, Psycho Cut. Down in his Move Tutor, he also gains access to Knock Off. He gains access to Superpower and Bounce and Fury Cutter. So, you know, he's just all around a pretty powerful. Like, he's built for just attacking. That's what he's supposed to be. I'm surprised his speed is so low. That's a picture of him, and his name comes from the word Narwhal. Well, yeah, it's basically just Narwhal without the R and the H. Or Narwhal, if you will. Now, the Harpoon Pokemon is an interesting one. How I would do is I would give it Mold Breaker. That would teach it Icicle Crash and Waterfall for stab coverage. Sacred Sword for that surprise hit, and Psycho Cut for another surprise hit. Your opponent wouldn't be ready for you to suddenly I think they look at an Ice Water type and they're not expecting a strong Fighting or Psychic attack to be coming at them. I would also give it a Shell Bell to keep itself alive, but definitely do some EV training to turn it into an aggressive sweeper. Moving on to probably the funniest of the group. This is Himalama. That's right, Himalama from Solar Light and Lunar Dark. Himalama is the Llama Pokemon, and it's an Ice Normal type with access to Thick Fat, Klutz, and Quick Feet. I'll definitely give it Thick Fat, that way it can remove a little bit of weakness towards Fire types and Ice types. It has no Pokedex entry yet, but it's really cool. It actually looks like it's like almost like a camel with how it's got a hump on its back. Now, stat-wise, it's not as strong as the other Pokemon that come before it. I mean, it's got really good HP, but its attack, special attack, and speed are, you know, just above average, with good special defense and defense. I guess how I would throw him together is I would definitely do EV training in his defenses, more so in its regular defense. Now it's got 4 weaknesses, but the problem there is its 4x weakness to Fighting types. Unfortunately, it doesn't learn a lot of coverage moves to get rid of that. It's also weak to Rock, Steel, and Fire types, although if you give it Thick Fat, the Fire type becomes only a 1x weakness, and Ice type would become doubly resistant. Also, its move pool is pretty shallow. Its attack isn't the best, but neither its special attack, so it does gain access to moves like Ice Ball, Rock Climb, Body Slam, and Frost Breath. You can do a lot with its TMs, I guess, but as you can see, that's a lot of normals showing up in there. And via Move Tutor, it only gains access to a few more, like Mud Slap and Seed Bomb. It's Lami, I guess is how you'd say it, in its original form, and when holding Never Melt Ice, it can evolve into Himalama. Himalama is based on a llama, and a mountain range, apparently. I guess I'll throw that one in there, even though it says just based on the llama. And its name is a combination of the Himalayas, aka its mountainous shape, and llama. Now, I'll be honest, when I first saw this Pokemon while I was going through the lists, I actually thought that I was misreading it. I thought it was actually an Ice Rock type, or possibly an Ice Ground type due to how it was shaped. But I was wrong. He's got a cute, quirky design. That's why I put him on the list. Like I said, it's my favorites list. But trust me, the last two are definitely powerhouses. I would teach it Frost Breath and Hyper Beam, with Yawn as the Hyper Beam Yawn combo, and give it Slack Off and Leftovers as ways to keep itself alive. I would make it more of an annoyance to my opponents, something that you'll have trouble, switching into, and more trouble getting rid of as it keeps knocking you unconscious. Of course, one Pokemon with Insomnia will screw you over there. Next up as my number 2 slot, we have the mighty Fafninter. Fafninter from Pokemon Uranium. I know, another Pokemon Uranium, but this guy is just, look at him, he is so cool looking. Fafninter is the Snow Guardian Pokemon. It's an Ice Dragon type. Its Pokedex entry reads, a gentle guardian of the mountains, this Pokemon will often escort lost travelers and Pokemon to safety by giving them a ride on its back. It also gains access to 2 of my favorite defensive moves, Thick Fat and Fur Coat, both of which are really cool moves to have. Now, statistically, he doesn't have a low stat except for his defense, but if you give him Fur Coat, that'll get rid of that weakness pretty well. EV training, you don't have to do much with him. His HP is 120, his attack's 110, special attack is 95, special defense is 98, and even for an Ice type that looks slow, he's got a base speed of 90, which gives him a good run for his money. Weakness-wise, he has weaknesses to Fighting, Rock, Steel, Dragon, and Fairy. So teaching him Thick Fat really isn't a necessity, unless you want to give him more resistances. While, as you can see, Fighting, Rock, and Steel are usually physical attacks, so Fur Coat's kind of the way to go. By level up, he does gain access to the standard list of Dragon-type moves, Dragon Tail, Dragon Pulse, Outrage, but he also gains access to moves like Blizzard and Ice Beam and Avalanche, Glaciate, even its Camouflage, which could be interesting. I guess you could have an interesting combo with that. Through his Move Tutor, he gains access to all 3 of the Elemental Fangs and Poison Fang and Crunch, so all of the really good bite attacks are his too. So you could easily turn him into a big bite-type Pokemon with little effort. By the way, why hasn't anyone made like a Dragon Fang ability yet? Honestly, I think we're eventually going to get to the point where there should just be a bite attack for every type. We already have Bug Bite, so I mean, why not, Fairy Nibble or something like that? I'm throwing that out there. And by breeding, he gains access to a lot of really powerful moves. You can gain Earthquake, Draco Meteor, you can teach him Double Edge, you can teach him Stealth Rock for a little bit more of a defensive, or not defensive, stall Pokemon. And due to how strong how high his HP and defenses are, you could really get it working. This is his unevolved form Fafur, and at level 55 becomes Fafninter. Interestingly, there is a difference between males and females, and it's that wondrous beard. The beard goes away on the females, and to be honest with you, I think the females actually look cooler because they have more of a regal look to them. And then they look like grass types when they become shiny, so I just don't know what to say about that. Design-wise, their inspiration from Fafnir, which is a figure from Norse mythology whose greed transformed him into a dragon, and Fafnir may be a portmanteau of Fafnir and Winter. Kinda is if you look at it, but if somebody came through that in the trivia section, so mazel tov to them. Yeah, Definitely don't have to do a lot of EV training, just basically to turn it into whatever type you want. I would give it a little better boost to its defenses, its HP, and its attack, and I would start off by teaching it Caustic Breath and Icicle Crash for stab coverage. Now, due to its special defense already being high enough, and the fact that I would only be using Caustic Breath for basically stab coverage and the stat lowering effect, you don't really have to boost its special attack. Icicle Crash, on the other hand, with maybe a little boost to speed, could cause some flinching. I would teach him Earthquake for some coverage and some big damage, and then Poison Fang for those annoying fairy types. Then give him leftovers to keep him alive, because trust me, with how high his HP pool is, he'll heal a lot of HP back each turn. Now for the last Pokemon. Now, the last Pokemon got on this list for multiple reasons. It has an awesome idea, an awesome design. It's based off of a mythological legend from Native Americans, and it may not be the best, but he's just so cool looking. I bring to you from Pokemon Sage, Carnibal, the feral Pokemon. Now look at him, okay? Feral Pokemon, yes. He is a very feral Pokemon. Carnibal's ravaging hunger is never satisfied. It can't stand the thought of sharing food with others, so it leaves the pack to hunt on its own. This Pokemon is probably based off of the Wendigo, if you ask me, which was a Native American lore about people who ate human flesh and then became horrible creatures of just destructive force. However, once again, Pokemon entries tend not to be 100% true, in my personal opinion. If so, there'd be a lot less mountains in the entire Pokemon world, because how would you find out if Machamp could actually punch mountains to dust? He gives access to Intimidate and Iron Jaw. Now, Iron Jaw, if you don't know, increases the power of the bearer's biting moves by 50%. So, obviously, I'm going to give him a few bite-type attacks. Stat-wise, his HP is really low for some reason. Definitely got to EV train that up. Other than that, though, he's got pretty good speed and special attack. He's got pretty good special defense and and he's got good attack. It's just that HP that you basically just got to slam like 250, the full 252 EVs into. His weaknesses are Rock, Bug, Steel, Fire, and a 4x weakness to fighting. He does gain access to things like Thunder Fang, Beat Up, Ice Shard, Bite, Ice Fang, Crunch. He can even learn Mega Horn and Sucker Punch, which are really good moves. As you know, I hate Sucker Punch because I can never land it properly, but lots of people use it against me. He can actually learn Giga Drain, which is pretty cool, too. I just noticed that while I was skipping through. He can actually learn Giga Drain. Via Move Tutor, he gains access to moves like Knock Off and Avalanche. He can learn Pain Split. And by breeding, he can learn Dream Eater and even Horn Leech, which could be really cool. He can even learn Moonlight, which is a healing move. And he starts off as Wendigo and then becomes Carnibal. He's actually... okay, so he is. So according to the trivia down here, he is based off of the mythological Wendigo. I thought he was. And his name is a combination of Carnivore and Cannibal. Now, this guy is just awesome looking to boot. But how I would play him is I would definitely give him Iron Jaw, and then teach him Crunch and Ice Fang for stat coverage, Horn Leech for a surprise against those pesky Pokemon that think they're going to take him down, and Sword Dance to boost his already good attack power up. I'd also give him a Shell Bell for some more utility. With weaknesses to rock types and fighting types, you got to be kind of careful. That's what Horn Leech is to cover for the rock types, but I really don't have a way of countering fighting types, so be careful with them. So that's my Ice-type Pokemon list. It is ice that you guys stayed around to watch this. I'm just kidding again. I wish Ice types could get a little bit more love. They don't have a lot of defensive coverage, but offensively they can kick a lot of different Pokemon's collective behinds. So thank you again for coming to watch my video, and from all the Modensters to you, we thank you for watching us. Have yourselves a great day. Peace out. Bye-bye.